Hi all and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to preview the Cheltenham Gold Cup card and obviously the fourth day of the festival. This is the fourth part of my Cheltenham preview series, and obviously we're going to have the fifth video being the handicap one after this. Hope you guys have been enjoying the first couple of days preview wise. I've got some great comments back, so I thank you all for that. It's great to see the interaction. The channel is obviously growing a little bit, and hopefully this can become more of a regular thing, and not just for Cheltenham but for some of the other festivals and maybe even just weekend racing. But anyway, that's enough rambling for now. We move on quickly to the Triumph Hurdle, which is our first grade one on the card on the Friday here at the festival. And we've got a pretty hot favourite here in Apple Shakira at 5-2. The mare, now trained by Nicky Henderson, is 3 from 3, I think, in England, and all her races have been at Cheltenham, which is interesting. I saw her on her debut run when she she got the better of Gumball by, I think, 19 lengths, and at the time Gumball was fancied as being probably the early pacemaker for the Triumph Hurdle market, and represented kind of similar enough connections, you know, Philip Hobbs and Dickie Johnson, to what was riding Defi de Soy last year. But Gumball has slightly gone off the rails, and Apple Shakira has kind of taken over in that score. At 5-2, I think she's too short, if I'm being honest. I thought her most unimpressive run was her third run, which would slightly concern me. I'm not sure what she'll be like on this better ground. I think she appreciates the soft ground. I know they're saying she won't be too bad on good ground, but I just think the soft ground would suit her more. If it came up soft, I think she'd have more of a chance. But here, I think the value lies with Radishan for Alan King at 9-2. Radishan is also 3 from 3 over hurdles, and last time out ran in the Adonis hurdle at Kempton, which is usually been used as a decent enough trial for English Triumph Hurdle horses. And because a lot of good horses have come out of that race and either run well or even won the Triumph Hurdle. I think Radishan could be another one of these. I was really impressed from the last day. His first 2 times over hurdles, he was good, he was quick from the back of the last, but he was a terrible jumper. He jumped a lot better, he was a lot more professional all the way around at Kempton, and again showed that turn of foot at the back of the last, which could burn some of these off, I reckon, in the home straight at Cheltenham. My worry would be perhaps his jumping in a bigger field under a better gallop. Will that come under pressure? And perhaps whether he's going to get up the hill, and will he be able to use that natural speed that we're seeing at a sharp track like Kempton rather than the stiff finish at Cheltenham. Other than that, here we've got a few, it's quite a competitive market. I'd say there's 6 or 7 here that have a good chance, and then it kind of tails off. There's not much at a really big price. But all of them are at okay prices. We Have a Dream at 7-1. I'm going to oppose. I don't think he's been beating much, I must confess. And I thought last time at Musselburgh didn't look that great. Stormy Ireland, been out for too long and too many question marks for me to put on at 7-1. Considering his stablemate Mr. Adjudicator is at 8-1, who was won a grade 1. And I do think even in the Triumph Hurdle, you do have to have a horse that's quite prepared for the race. And Mr. Adjudicator, he's only run 2 times over hurdles, so maybe that's kind of defeating my purpose. And also my next tip is defeating the purpose as well. But anyway, Mr. Adjudicator, I think the grade 1 run will hold to him here. It was not a bad grade 1. That far class horse, who's also in here, is quite a good horse, and they pulled well clear. And also that race was 2 seconds quicker to Sam Crow's race on the same day, same card. That would be the same day, same card, sorry. But same day that Leopardstown, or the Dublin Racing Festival. So, actually, you could rate that as quite good form. And therefore, I think Mr. Adjudicator at 8-1 is a good each-way bet here. My other one, as more of the unknown, because I didn't go for Stormy Ireland as my unknown, is Sal Dier for Willie Mullins as well, this time in the Rich Ritchie colours. There was a lot of talk that this Sal Dier could be quite a nice type before his debut a couple of weeks ago, and he did everything right. You know, it wasn't the greatest maiden hurdle, but he hacked up by 15 lengths, never coming close to off the bridle, and there could be untapped ability here. And I know you could say that exactly the same about Stormy Ireland, and she's won by 58 lengths. But Stormy Ireland hasn't been seen since I think it was in December, that run, and was ruled out. Didn't run in the Dublin Racing Festival because wasn't showing that much spark at home, which is interesting. As for Saldier, we kind of know is fit and healthy after that run. And I think he's probably the more safer proposition of the unknowns, if you get me, at 10-1. Also, 10-1 to 7-1, you're getting that bit better value each way. So it would be Radishan as my winning bet there, with Mr. Adjudicator and Saldier each way. Which moves us on to the Albert Bartlett Novice Hurdle, one of the renowned of being one of the toughest races to pick the winner of. I tipped up Penn Hill last year on my blog each way at 16-1, and obviously that ran a great race. But I also tipped up like Augusta Cates with my winning bet for that race and ran no race. I did think Death Tuesday would be beat, but that was kind of the only thing I got right, if I'm being perfectly honest. Cracking Smart here at 6-1, I couldn't have. I don't particularly understand why 6-1. I can't see him winning the race. Next Destination at 6-1, very good horse. I like Next Destination, and he has beaten Cracking Smart the last 2 times. My worry is he actually going to run in this race? And this is kind of why I'm thinking of doing a few more, maybe smaller videos closer to the time, confirming my bets, when I get more of a handle on which horse is going to run in which Novice Hurdle and Novice Chase and so on. Because it's difficult at this stage, because we don't know, is Next Destination going to run against Sam Crowan on the blind side, or is he going to take perhaps the weaker option here, but could long-term be the tougher option, if you get me. The Albert Bartlett can sometimes ruin a horse at an early stage. But I'm not going to tip up Next Destination because of those worries. Instead, I think the one to be on here is Santini at 7-1 for Nicky Henderson. Battled really well on his second time out over Hurdle. A point-to-point winner, won nicely on Hurdle's debut, and then upped that form when denying Black Op in a close finish to a Grade 2 over 2.5. He battled well that day and stayed on really well to deny Black Op in the final few strides. He looked like he was staying on all the time. I think 3 miles is going to suit, and perhaps he's got that ability to see them off and keep galloping, which I think is the key in this race. You need a horse that can jump, that can gallop, and that can stay. Santini certainly has two of those 3, I reckon, and at 7-1 he could be your good winning bet here. In terms of each way, I've actually got 2 in this, which I didn't think I would, but once I looked at it closely, I thought actually these wouldn't be too bad. One of them being Chris's Dream for Henry de Bromhead. Quite a new recruit to Henry de Bromhead's yard, bought by that slightly new ownership, that Rob Coor, the pink and white with the black sleeves. Got a few horses with Harrington and a few with Henry de Bromhead. He's at 16-1. On his first run for the yard, he won the Mercedes-Benz Novice Hurdle at Clonmel. It was a Grade 3 over 3 miles. A race won by Monali last year. Went on to run an absolute cracker in this race. Chris's Dream improved no end for this step up to 3 miles and galloped them silly, winning by a wide margin. It wasn't the best Grade 3 field, I'm not going to lie to you, but he's got, again, those attributes I reckon suit the Albert Bartlett, and he has to be a good shout here at 16-1, stepping up clearly on his earlier form for Eugene O'Sullivan on the transfer to Henry de Bromhead's yard, and perhaps there's more untapped ability waiting within Chris's Dream. And my only other one here is actually, I think if he runs, this could be a really good bet. I don't know whether he's going to run or not, but Bally Ward at 25-1 for Willie Mullins. He's just looked an out-and-out galloper in all 3 starts, having been finished second in a point-to-point, won a bumper over 2-4, galloping them silly at the Leopardstown Christmas Festival in 2016 to win by 15 lengths. Then came back, was not seen for a year, came back in to run his first race over hurdles in the Leopardstown Christmas Festival 2017 over 2-4. Was held up that day. I don't think that suited. He doesn't look like a horse that's got that devilish turn of foot or anything. And he kind of galloped on to be a pretty one-paced 4th. They were a bit more prominent with him last time at Naas when he went off favourite for a 2-mile 3 maiden hurdle, denying As You Were in a very good finish, but they pulled well clear, and he stayed on really gamely to deny As You Were, who's not a bad stayer and not a bad horse, even though he's still a maiden over hurdles. I think this horse, if he runs, he's got that ability to keep galloping. If he needs to tighten up his jumping technique, which is a bit shoddy at this stage, but he is a young horse, he is an unexposed horse. He's only run twice over hurdles, and there could be more potential to come from him. Perhaps this might come a little too early in his progression, but if he's there and if he's 25-1, why not have a few quid each way? You might as well. We get to the Gold Cup then. 3:30. The Gold Cup at 3:30 here. We've got Might Bite leading the market at 3-1. Is Might Bite going to stay? Is he going to win the Gold Cup? No. Put it out there. Could be completely wrong. He could prove me wrong. If he does so, fair fucks to the horse. You know, he's done very well, but I don't think he's going to stay. And I don't think I'd be taking him 3-1 ahead of other horses who've got more experience, and I just feel are more solid propositions. And the two of those, for me, are Native River and Sizing John. I'm going to back last year's Gold Cup form, and actually, I'm going to throw in even more of a backup of last year's Gold Cup form, because I'll tell you here and now, my each-way play, Manila Rocco. But Native River and Sizing John both could be winning bets. Both are around 6-1. There's not much in it, really. Sizing John's come off one bad run where he turned out a bit too soon after his John Durkin in the Leopardstown Christmas Chase. Didn't run any race that day. It's been put away since. And perhaps that's a blessing in disguise for Jessica Harrington and Connections, because he'll be fresh and ready to go here. Robbie Power back in a saddle. I think this has got a really, really good chance of going back-to-back here. I don't think it's that strong a Gold Cup. But I think he's actually just a very good horse. I kind of don't know what way to think of it. I think it's not that bad. You know, I've seen better Gold Cups. Like, obviously, Curtis Starr and Denman were better. But then again, he's much better than Lord Windermere and even perhaps Bobsworth's here and stuff like that. So it's difficult to know. You've got to, I'm going to go through some of these. I think Sizing John could go back-to-back here. Native River, I'd be backing him. He jumps, he stays. If you give him an aggressive ride out front, I'd see no reason why he couldn't run a big race. He was superb on his reappearance at Newbury. Looked like exactly the same horse. He's still quite a young horse, even though he's been around a bit. This is the good thing about both him and Sizing John. They've both been around for quite a while, and yet they're not old horses at any stage. I'll go through the rest of them though. Our Duke here is at 8. I really like our Duke. I'm a big fan of him. But I do think he does have the tendency to make one or two really bad jumping mistakes. And in a Gold Cup, a bit like what happened in the Irish Gold Cup the second last, there'll be no recovery from that. And I don't think our Duke will be able to recover from one of those mistakes. Road to Respect, I don't think he's quite good enough, if I'm being perfectly honest. Kololtovic, he's got the ability, but will he stay? He fell last time out. He's a bit quirky and a bit fragile. I can't have him. Bit too inexperienced as well. Definitely Red, more of a national type. Total Recall, he could run a big race, but I'm not so sure. Manila Rocco here, this is where we're on to something. And you look at the form figures, 4P, 4F. How are you backing him? But you looked at it last year, it was exactly the same. Like, he went into last year's Gold Cup. His form figures for the year were 3FU, and then came second in the Gold Cup. I thought he actually ran a much better race last time out in the Irish Gold Cup. I know he fell at the last. He was beat. He was beat as well, but he's not getting his ground, and he's been running over in Ireland and hasn't been getting his ground. And this will be the first time he can run on that ground. And he's a stout stayer. He outstayed many horses last year, and I can see that happening. If his jumping errors, which are probably his chief rival almost, is himself and his jumping. But if he can kind of keep himself just about close enough, I can certainly see him staying on past beaten horses and perhaps sneaking in at 3rd or 4th, depending on how many places they're paying at 20-1. And I think I'm going to give Manila Rocco. This will be my last chance for Manila Rocco. I haven't backed him pretty much all season because you kind of know not to back him on soft ground. And if it was by any chance to come up soft for the Gold Cup, he completely goes out the window. No chance. And last of all, my last one for this video is the Fox Hunters, which is an interesting race. I don't have much of a say, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't have much of a say. I'd probably say my win bet here would be Fox Rock at 8-1. He moved to Hunter Chases last year, having been a very admirable kind of top of the range handicapper / good grade horse. He was obviously second to Carlingford Lough in the Irish Gold Cup one year. He won the race, which is now, I think, the Coral Chase at Leopardstown. Was second in the Paddy Power at Leopardstown. He's an admirable sort. But went to Hunter Chases last year and won, I think, 3 on the bounce. But I don't know how the Hunter Chase thing works, but he didn't qualify for Cheltenham. A bit like the way Gil Gamboa isn't qualifying this year. But he was pulled up in the Irish National. He probably doesn't want handicaps anymore. He probably doesn't need this Hunter Chase stuff. Came back last time out and was second behind Gil Gamboa at Thurles. He was beaten quite well that day. He was beaten 10 lengths here. But that was not a bad reappearance run. And Gil Gamboa is probably the best Hunter Chaser out there across Ireland and England. But he's not allowed to run. So therefore, we've got Burning Ambition at 4-1, who's done pretty much all his racing actually in the points, and just won 1 at Limerick, and was second at Punchestown. Who was he second to? Sorry, I just don't know the form well enough. He was second to Gil Gamboa as well. And Wonderful Charm is in there for Paul Nicholls at 6-1. He's obviously got a good chance after his second last year. I think one perhaps at a price will be Ballinasloe. I'm not sure whether he'll stay. That's my only issue with him. But at 14-1, he's got an okay squeak. He won a great race in this last year to come 5th. I think he was then second. Yeah, no, he was 5th in this one. Then second in the Aintree Fox Hunters. And then 1st in the Punchestown Fox Hunters. He finally got it right. He was pulled up in a recent point-to-point. But I look past that run. He's going to be primed for this race. And hopefully he can run a race at 14-1. And I know this will come as a bit of a shock to quite a lot of you. I don't know whether he'll turn up or not, but if he does, just for old time's sake, because I do reckon he'll be his last run at the festival, on the fringe, 33-1 to sneak into a place. He knows the race, he knows the course, he knows the distance. He'll be staying on at the end. It's whether he can be close enough. I know recent form would suggest he's struggling, but a recent second into a point-to-point gives you a hope that there perhaps is a little bit of something still there. And if there's something still there, he still could potentially run into a place. And he's no longer favourite, like the last couple of years. He is 33-1, so he's well backable each way. And that concludes the 4th day. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the previous 3 days as well. The next episode will be a handicap video where I'll go through all of them. So the Ultima, the Close Brothers, and so on, Coral Cup, all that good stuff. And hopefully have 1 or 2 selections for each race. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to know which horses are exactly going to run in which handicaps, but it's the same here in the novice races. You don't really know until you see on the day. But I hope you think these are not bad little each way and / winning bets, most of them actually winning bets, and a few each way plays at that slightly bigger price than I suspect you'll get on the day. Anyway, that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did so, give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and also comment below if you have any suggestions or any debate on the tips I've given out. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Happy punting.